Hello, hello. Welcome to our next Let's Learn. So this is going to be a different, one. It's going to be similar to Convert Action in the sense of the way the game is structured. We will not be doing a full play. We will be showing how to create stuff, set up for the mid and late game early on, as well as explain the gameplay loop. We'll also be looking at the scripted, missions. Well, rather, your first 8 missions or so are scripted in a specific order, but you will be given a reward that is unique to that mission each time, and we'll be going over more of those rewards later. So to start with, I want to talk about the basic party comp. Basically, you want to have 2 damage dealers, as well as a medic and an interrogator. Interrogator is one you want to use for um, the spy missions, as well as a secondary interpreter. And you're going to want to cover most of those, most of the common languages. There will be a timestamp and everything. So again, look for the timestamp and so on. And I'll be reminding you when we talk about character creation for an interrogator that there will be timestamps of the languages you should be prioritizing. I know it seems redundant, but I would just want to be sure that I'm clear. There are timestamps. So, but there, yeah, again, so you want to have at least 2 damage dealers. 3 would actually not be a bad idea because generally speaking, you want to have a lot of people that can put out damage, kill quickly, move on. And mid and late game combat missions will have ample amounts of enemies. We're talking at least 10, and their initiatives are kind of random, so I don't know, what many turns each one get, but generally speaking, you want to be moving faster. You also want to have your medic with them as well, because you want to patch up any injuries they may get, because you will get shot. And having strong, healthy people keeps you in the game longer. Something to note about your party leader. Whoever you pick is the one you directly controls the leader, and if he dies, it's automatic game over. Why it's set up like that, I don't know, and it's honestly strange. But that being said, let's see. You want at least 2 damage dealers. If you feel comfortable doing a 3-in-1 split, go for it. I personally prefer having 2 damage dealers, a medic, and an interrogator, but I'm kind of lazy. So yeah, that's just how I prefer playing, and should switch it around to how you play or how you want to play. This is just to explain how I do it, and so on. So we'll be first looking at our damage dealer. Okay, so let's talk about damage dealer. All right. So yeah. So creating a character, it doesn't matter your gender or your nationality, because it doesn't change your stats mechanically or anything. Also, be on the lookout for secondary languages. You want to have some freebies as best as you can. We'll be going over that in more detail with our interrogator. All right, just keep rolling until you get a decent amount. Oof, Constitution's awful. You don't want your damage dealer to have less than 7 strength and con. You want them to have high con and strength and all that. This looks decent. Education is pretty crap though. You want them to be able to enter officer school. Hmm. This doable. You don't need to worry much about language on your main damage dealer. All right, good. Get your service actually does not matter because you get roughly the same skills across all of them. Now, this is something we're going to be referencing again when you get to the weapon, weapon to choose. So this is something right here. You want to look at what weapon you're going to be using. There's machine guns, grenade launchers, and heavy machine guns, which are governed by heavy weapons. There's rifle, the M249, which is governed by rifle. This is one of the earliest chances you can get to really start setting yourself down towards usage of those weapons. I honestly recommend the rifle over the heavy weapons. That's to say they're bad or anything. It's just the 249 will outperform the rest by far. With easier investment, and you don't have to worry as much about having too low scores. I should note heavy weapons will also have rocket launchers. However, I don't think they actually influence whether or not a tow missile will hit. The tow missiles seem to be pretty reliable at low heavy weapon use. And if in doubt, our loadouts. Well, we'll get to the loadouts, near the end of this. Well, I don't think near the end. In the character creation, before the first mission, we will be talking about our weapon, loadout, and more about that. So skip to that if you want to know more about it. For now, we're going to be doing a 249 build, so pump rifle. Now, the reason why rifle is preferred here and it does the 249 is because for each turn, each turn you can put 5 points into it. If you are very lucky, you can get upwards of 25 points in that skill. Damn, we got screwed. So this is honestly going to be a pretty crappy guy. Your damage dealers need to meet specific thresholds. So we're going to be seeing what we get here. When you create your character, take the 249 as your freebie. All right, so let's look at what we got here. This is not going to be our our actual squad. We have a pre-made squad we're going to be using for it. That's based around the 249 build. So you see his rifle is very low. You want to have at least 16, preferably 20 to 25. That does require some significant luck, though, because it's RNG whether or not war breaks out while your character is being created. It is what it is, I know. And look at his initiative is awful. This is a very, very bad initiative. You do not want a single, a one. You want at least 5, preferably 6. If you have trouble getting what you're looking for, 4 is acceptable, but you want 5 minimum, preferably 6. Reason for this is the more turns you take, the more kills you can get per turn. You want to get at least 1 kill per turn, especially early and mid when there are a few enemies out in the field. That means you can finish the mission quicker and get on to your next. Late game, you are going to be dealing with upwards of at least 10 to 15 units, not including any vehicles. In late game, you will be having a mass swarm upon you that is randomly generated. You can manipulate it to be lower, but it's usually going to be at least 2 vehicles and possibly at least 10 to 15 soldiers. So keep that in mind. Your damage dealer needs to have high initiative and high, rifle, because or rather it needs to have high skill of your weapon type. We are doing this under the assumption you are doing the 249 build. So that is your damage dealer. We'll be talking about our, you want at least 2 damage dealers. So you want to try to make them identical. So remember, high rifle or high heavy weapons, whichever weapon type you are preferring. So high weapon type, high initiative. If you don't get either, reroll. Keep doing it until you do. So we'll be looking at our medic next. Okay, so let's talk about medic. Your medic is your guy who's going to be around with your party almost all the time. There should be no reasons you ever send out your medic instead of somebody else. So let's make a medic. All right, so your medic again, it could be any nationality. So you actually need to be paying attention to what your education and your intelligence scores are. You want them to be at least 6 because you need them to be able to enter medical school as well as graduates. So this is actually a pretty decent loadout. You don't need charisma. You don't really need charisma in the computer game. It's more of a tabletop thing. Your strength and constitution don't need to be high because you should not be getting into, your damage dealer should be able to take out most of the threats before they can do any serious harm to your medic. But as a rule of thumb, have at least 5 constitution for all your people. The more you can get away with without compromising their specialized role, the better. All right, so again, doesn't matter your background or skills. No, we're just picking whatever. All right, so your medic is not going into the military. You are going into undergrad university because you want to you get qualified. You need 3 biology, 2 chemistry. Anything else is your choice. You don't really need anything else at this point. It couldn't hurt to get an extra language, and we will have a separate section later for what languages you should be getting. And here is an interesting thing: you can join the Navy or ROTC, which also includes the Marines or the Air Force ROTC. However, if you're qualified as a medical doctor, you'll be automatically drafted to medical armor of the Army. So yeah, it's up to you. It really does not matter. Now, your first secondary, you want to pump medical. Do nothing but pump medical. Anything else is a bonus. Your primary focus is medical school. Now go into medical and keep going. The more medical you have, the less likely you are to fail checks. Some mid and late game missions can have you spamming heal and cure. Well, not cure because cure takes 1 minute. However, heals have a different check, as far as I can tell, where it can be random. Even with high medical, it still fail. So now we're going to medical doctor, and you get free points. War broke out, and we got sent right to medical arm. So if you can manage to get no war breaking out while you're a medical doctor, your secondary will give you 2 points instead of 1. You can use those to keep pumping medical. Your personal weapon doesn't matter, but you want to kind of go to 249 because you're going to be specialized in this. We'll be going into detail on that, later. So let's take a look at his profile. Notice his medical. This is light pumping. Generally speaking, you don't have to put as much as many points into medical as you do rifle or heavy weapons. Because medical is a specific check that is only called for in certain missions, as well as healing your units after a mission. And that's usually a much lower check. Here, if you can get extra rifle points as a bonus, but your guy should not be doing most of the combat. And his initiative is junk. Again, this is not a priority, unlike others. Your damage dealers will be the ones doing most of the fighting, so his initiative and his rifle score are nowhere near as much of a priority. You want him focused on healing, and that's it. Now that's pretty much it. If you can get over 16, that's great. Because unlike the combat skills, again, lower threshold. Combat skills do need a higher one because you're relying on them to do things. All right, so now we're going to talk about your interrogator. Interrogation is an absolutely necessary skill in this game, so you want to have someone very specialized toward it. So again, we go into the creator. Now, for your interrogator, you want to have at least 1 bonus language. If you pick a nationality that has the potential for a bonus, take the bonus. You want to shoot for Spanish or Polish as your secondary if you go American, because those are actually pretty common here. Polish up for obvious reasons, but Spanish is surprisingly common. Now, your languages are a little bit different. There will be a separate section on which languages to take. I want to remind people there are some priority ones. Think about common NATO and Eastern Europe ones, especially Russian family, which is considered a lot of languages that are actually not Russian. So for an interrogator, you want to have at least high intelligence, high education, because you want to be access the intel arm and take every single language you can get. The recommended languages will be in a separated timestamp. So please look for the timestamp to know which languages to get. For education, you want a military academy because again, you want access to officer skills. Now, your intelligence guy should also be a polyglot. So for your secondary, take as many languages as you. Officer will give you freebie in interrogation and a bonus language. Now, your intelligence guy, your interrogator can put a point inside rifle each time, but your damage dealers should be the ones handling handling that. You may want to consider a 3-1 split. Pick up extra languages as well as interrogation. If that's assuming you don't want to use your secondary on language, I would suggest doing this anyway because it means you can grab more languages per turn. You want let's see. Let's assume you get to term 6. That means you have around 12 languages, and you can see here how many languages are in the game. So about 31 languages, right? Unless I miscounted. So you can end up having a spread of half the languages. Again, look for the languages timestamp to know which ones to prioritize. All right, so let's take a look at them. So our number of languages known is scroll off screen. It's a limitation of the game, unfortunately, the way it was designed. Our interrogation is honestly low, mostly because we gave up that 1 extra point per turn. The interrogation threshold is similar to medical, and it's only used in spy ring missions where you gotta find who's the mole for Baron Carney. I would suggest having at least 12 interrogation if you get it. Otherwise, shoot for 10 minimum. That will give you, uh, a very high rate of success. Not a guaranteed one, mind you. But generally speaking, you shouldn't be able to meet most checks. It is absolutely a necessary skill. All right, so let's talk about languages. Languages are a key part of this game. You need a lot of the widely common languages in order to succeed because you need someone who can speak the language in order to do interpretation. So here you see our intelligence person has a lot of languages. We have Czech, English, Estonian, French, Hungarian, Kazakh, Polish, and it goes off screen here, but we also have Romanian, Russian, and Tartar. This covers a wide spread. I would suggest, in addition to that, as many languages you can cram on to your intelligence guy, you want to have German, Italian, French, as well as the. Let's pull up another one. So you want, yeah, we already we have French on it, but it doesn't hurt to have extras. Oh yeah, you want Spanish, French, German, Welsh. Weirdly enough, I think I've seen Welsh before. Yiddish is not necessarily one. Hungarian was not also not a bad choice, but generally speaking, you want to look for the common Eastern Europe languages on top of obviously the Polish one because you're in Poland, as well as Russian. I'm trying to remember what was the other one. There is a language that sometimes shows up, but it's like you would not expect it to. As you can see here, we have a wide spread of these as well. Doesn't hurt to have at least 2 or 3 speaking the same language. Latvian is also not a bad choice. So you think about mostly the Russian language library with NATO as a secondary. French, despite French not being in NATO in this timeline, does actually pay off here. You do want to have it because I have seen that commonly come up. You have to remember this is an alternate reality where World War III happened. Not the logical thing does not happen. All right, so it looks like we do have most of these covered, and you can end up in a roadblock situation where you do not have the right one, and you end up having to reload before the mission and hope you don't get that language again. So again, to repeat, English, Polish, Russian, Italian, French, German are the biggest, most common ones. Latvian, as well as in general Russian sublanguages. This is before anybody gets confused. This is as defined by the game. So okay, so I do not want anybody misunderstanding. This is defined by the game. Slovak, it would also not be a bad choice. Again, think what is most likely to show up. Target Russian, target Polish, target English and German and French as your main ones to get. The more you have, the better. And it is possible to have someone that can have every single language taken. As a side note, Armenian is the one language you can ignore. It is actually a useless language here in context of the game. This is because the only time an NPC will ever speak Armenian is when you are doing a healing mission, as in the curing mission or healing injuries. That's the only time the NPCs will ever use Armenian, and they will never have anything to say. As in message this NPC has nothing to say. So keep that in mind. Do not waste a slot on Armenian unless you are a completionist, because it is a language that effectively is dead in this game. There's only extremely specific use for it, and it will never actually be meaningful otherwise. It's weird because you can get a lot of the different other languages, right? And in theory, any language that's selectable is one that can be used in the pool. So again, get a good widespread look at mostly the common, Eastern Europe languages and as well as NATO languages. Okay, so let's talk about weapons. Weapons. Oh, Twilight 2000 is interesting in the sense of almost every single weapon is viable and across the same class, i.e., pistols, they're very comparable. Some will perform better than the others, but in general, there is kind of a meta. Now, it seems strange to say that after what I just said. However, it is possible to create a squad that performs much better with a specific weapon type. This is because some skills are easier to get. Now, we're going to discharge a recruit real quick because I want to show why it is. Well, actually, this will be, if you've been paying attention so far, you would have seen our damage dealers. Went over that in damage dealers. So we'll just look up these skills. Oh, no, I don't want that. All right, so notice our rifle skill. Our rifle skill is very high, and he is a M249 user. Now, this setup is for the M249 Abusal. Means when we get inside, we're going to get in there, put a Starlight scope on it, and have extended range higher than what it says on there, as well as very solid hit percentage and damage dealt. Now, the reason why there are really there are three weapons that really stand out if you take the time to specialize in them, because compared to others of their class, they are the best. So what we're going to do here is we're going to discharge somebody so we can bring up the weapon screen. Doesn't matter because we're just going to be reloading in a save anyway when we get inside. So first off, we need to get him rolled up just enough to get some ranks. Oh, good layout. Now, since we have covered this inside the the damage dealing, but this is a good point to point out. This is where you can start your specialization. Again, this is pointed out inside the creating a damage dealer, but this is where you can start really going towards your specialization. So this is just to show it off. You just want to get the stuff built up. Come on, break out, war, break out. Or I'd be saying I wanted a war to break out. But we kind of need it to in order for us to get weapon selections. There we go, finally. Yeah. Okay, so weapon selection screen. Good. Okay, so you have the 249 and the M60. These are ones you can buy right away, and it doesn't matter because this is just your personal weapon, which is a freebie. So you don't really need to worry too much about that. Now, look at the clip. You can carry 15 clips as well as 5 by default. You'll start out with 5 as your personal weapon. You can carry 20 total. All right, I believe it's no, wait, hold on. Yeah, 15 reloads plus the 5 you start out with. All right. So, the 249 is a rifle, is an automatic rifle. It technically is a light machine gun because there are some games like Counter Strike, but not Counter Strike, but sorry, been so long. Actually, like Half Life Opposing Force, and I can't remember which other games had the 249. Possibly one of the Call of Duties. I don't think so. Maybe there was a similar one, but generally speaking, 49 tends to be treated as a light machine gun. Here it is an automatic rifle, which means the rifle skill governs it. But you can also take the M60. Note how much ammo it carries. It carries 100 bullets per belt, and you can carry 2 belts as extra reloads. That means you carry around 300. The 249 can carry 600 rounds. Up to the very late game, when you have lots of city defense missions, the 249 the 249 is just has so much more ammo for you. You will almost never run out of ammo unless you have very low rifle score. Now, the reason why you can also look at the M60 is it has a high ammo count, but it's governed by heavy weapons. And an M60 will tear people apart and it has slightly higher range. So let's go ahead and pick something up. All right, so now that we're in the main screen, all right, here is the other reason you want to consider specializing into heavy weapons. Well, there's actually two other reasons. This is the main reason that people would want to consider heavy weapons. Now, the heavy barrel is a mean thing. This thing is normally mounted on tanks. Give you an idea of how scary it is. This is normally a tank weapon for dealing with anti-infantry duty. Notice the weight is also massive. 10,000 grams versus 7,000. 249 weighs a little less, has an easier to raise skill. The machine gun, heavier, more ammo, but you also have to specialize in heavy weapons. Heavy barrel, by far the biggest FU to an enemy, soldier. If you hit someone with a heavy barrel, they're dying, plain and simple. Those things will kill. But you notice the recoil on the burst is high. I used to believe that the heavy barrel was the best one, just because of the ammo count as well as the damage and all that. But it was years ago when a viewer stumbled upon videos, told me about how good the M249 was. I tried it out; they were right. So that's why I advocate 249. Now, remember, you can use any weapon combo. Some will perform better, but the 249 is probably the best rifle you can use because it's much easier to raise rifle than it is the heavy weapon skill. Even with freebies from joining an officer school as well as an enlisted weapon branch. And as a side note, heavy weapons also the other reason for heavy weapons, aside from either the M60 or the heavy barrel, grenade launchers are underneath it. Now, grenade launchers, you want to go for only the Mark 19 because let's see, let's pull it up. There we go. Now it weighs about the same as the heavy barrel, and it costs more. However, look at the ammo. Single shot, but it carries 50 rounds, and it can carry 2 extra reload belts. This is honestly a very big thing. The range on that is 200, which means you can sit outside inside a city and chuck grenades at enemy troops. A decent strat for city defense missions is to go inside the city, take down any vehicles that show up within the city limits, then switch to infantry mode and just chuck grenades until you've got the mission complete. You need high heavy weapon skills in order to make that work, though. So it is something to consider. Again, refer to the damage dealer setup for more information on how to raise a specific type sooner. Rather raise a specific type more. But this is what you want to think about. You want to choose what weapons you want to do in a run. Rifle is almost always going to be better, and this is why. See the damage deal here. Heavy barrel and M60 are great, but you have to specialize in the heavy weapons. So I would always say 249 is by far the easiest one. And, it performs very well. I dismiss you. All right, so now we're going to talk about party supply. All right, so when you create a character, everything except their personal weapon will be put inside. Okay, actually, everything except any thermal fatigues, Kevlar vest, and sometimes snowshoes. They will also have a helmet as well. So everything except those items and their personal weapon will be automatically added to your storage. Now, this is the reason why you want to do that. Keep that in mind is because what you want to do, your extra characters that you create your core party is buy a lot of your preferred weapon and then extra supplies. So let's do an example. So what we're going to do here is let's do this. Yep. We want him to be officer because officers get more money. So try to shoot for officer stats. This might be enough. Yes, good. Doesn't matter your branch. Just pick whatever. It's flavor at that point. And it's RNG again. Oh, right, sorry, never mind. Sorry, I got confused for a moment there. It's RNG whether or not you get 4. Doesn't matter your branch as long as it's an officer branch. Also, something I forgot to point out is some of these can be ones that don't exist in reality. Like you could pick a landlocked nation and have navy. Like, okay, or one that doesn't have operating air force, or ones that don't have a marine service. What's listed here is generally it's meant to be the United States Marines going by the icon because as far as I know, the Marine Corps of the United States is the only one that operates that very specific dress attire. And it is very obviously the United States Marine Corps on that one. So just pick whatever skills. It doesn't matter. What you want to do is get at least 4 turns, preferably some promotions. This is all RNG, unfortunately. All right, so we got kind of crappy one. Now, your preferred weapon could be, well, your sidearm, your personal weapon. If you're going for rifles, you could use this to get a free M249. If you're going for machine guns, you can use this to get a free M60. You can't use this strategy, the freebie to get a heavy barrel or something else. You have to buy those manually. So we'll just go to 249 because this is the 249 strat. Now, at this point, what you want to do is look to the weapons, get to the one you want to stock up on. Now, notice how much is you get. Higher officers get higher amounts. What you do is burn every single dollar you can on the weapon, your choice. So 249, M60, M8, heavy barrel, whatever. Remember, the M60 will cost same as the M249. However, the heavy barrel is a little bit more. So if you have low amounts of money, yeah, you could be in trouble. Now, the reason you want to do this is you want to specialize your preferred weapons ammo. We're just going to buy a bunch of these. We're going to fit as many as we can onto here. Don't worry about the max load. You're not going to be carrying all these weapons in combat. Now we're going to deploy a squad. And you want to repeat this for our two weapon types you should be getting. Your preferred weapon as well as tow missile. Get the tow missile launcher because you are going to be using those to do heavy lifting on killing tanks when you find them out as a random encounter in the wild. And trust me, it's a lot simpler than using tank combat when it's in the wild. When it's in a city or something, it's much easier because you can roll up on them and see them more easily. But for RNG encounters, missiles are just straight up better. And when we get to the loadout, you'll see there'll be more explanation there. So first off, let's deploy. So notice we have 13 249s. So we were able to buy 12. And then we also have our personal weapon. Notice how much ammo we have. Keep in mind the 249s fully loaded are 600 rounds apiece. So you could end up taking, if you somehow burn through every single, bullet you have for the 249 per mission, you are burning up 1,800. You want at least 30,000. That sounds strange, but look how much we got with one person just buying 249s. It's actually very easy to hit 50 or 100,000 of a single bullet type. And it's much easier if you just make sure you only buy that specific weapon. If you try to buy any other weapons, you're going to end up confused and may not hit your threshold. Now keep in mind, later in the game, there will be missions where you get a reward of weapons or ammunition. And this will increase your supply as well. However, your starting supply is what we're looking to address here. Now, you're going to do what you just did with 249 with tow missiles, as well as you're going to be doing it with medical supplies. Now, medical supplies, you're going to be looking at stocking up only two specific ones. The doctor medical kit, as well as the antibiotic. Those are the only two ones you ever actually need in this game. Anything else is meant for tabletop, but antibiotic will be for your curing missions, and doctor medical bags will be for your healing missions. For the most part, you're going to be dealing with 10 or less injured civilians on a healing mission. So you want the doctor medical kit because you get 10 uses per. What I would suggest is, since you have a list, sorry, it's a little bit of a cough today. What you're going to be dealing with, since you have 20 platoon size. Aside from the freebies you might, from the extras you might get from your main party, who should all have 249 as their personal sidearm, I would suggest 3 people doing your primary weapon, 3 doing missiles, and the rest doing extra gear. You only need 2 people do medical stuff because you should not need you should not need massive amounts of medical supplies till mid and late game when you might get curing and healing missions more. You can prioritize doctor medical kits over antibiotics because you only need about 1,000 antibiotics. 1,000 will last you an entire game because it should be impossible unless you specifically reload and save when you get a cure mission to burn through more than 1,000 uses. So you do not need to prioritize antibiotics. Medical kits are absolutely much more necessary. Now, for miscellaneous supplies, you're going to want Starlight scopes. You want 4 Starlight scopes. Sorry, you want 4 Starlight scopes for your main party because your damage dealers will have extra range off them. You also want tracked vehicle tools, basic tools, 4-man tent, at least 4 flak jackets for your main party, 4 snowshoes for your main party because for your first mission you will be moving on foot. Any missions after will be done via vehicle. And you can also look at an optional of getting flashlights, IR goggles, nighttime combat, which should not be a primary thing. Generally speaking, you should be fighting only through the day. Now, let's see. I'm trying to think of what else we need. For the most part, that's it. Some of these other items can be used in game, but for the most part, you're looking at scopes, hint, black jacket, and all that. You normally will get given thermal fatigues. You also get given a Kevlar vest sometimes, while it's getting guaranteed a helmet. Black jacket will help a lot mid and late game, especially early game when there's not that many people out there, and they're usually using lower powered weapons like submachine guns or pistols. That is the general thing. You want to have at least 3 people on your. I'll repeat it again to be sure message is clear. 3 people on your main preferred weapon. 3 on TOW2 missile launchers. 1 or 2 on medical supplies. You don't need to go too hard on antibiotic. You only need about 1,000. It's very cheap. Put the rest into medical kits. And then you're going to be looking at redundancy. You want to have at least a couple. You want to have a dedicated mechanic to do things. And we will go over that in a moment. Okay, we are ready to show what this is the absolute last one you need to really make a functional platoon. So, we've covered damage dealing, medical, and your interrogator, as well as your party supplies, right? However, there is a last party type that you need, but you don't need them in combat. This is your mechanic. The mechanic could be anything. You generally want them to be high in education, an officer, and all that, because you want to have access to high agility, high intelligence, and high strength, because these are much more price stats for a mechanic. This will have to do. Damn. Okay, let's just re-roll him. I thought I was sure I had the right one. Stats. English does not matter for this guy. Might work. Oh, let's see. Damn. Since when did the damn military academies have actual requirements? And the kind of people that come out of there these days? Yeesh. Getting really bad roles here. Generally speaking, you want to meet the opposite stuff. Something I forgot to talk about, mention is if you have a character that is qualified for National Military Academy, but you decide to go enlisted, you will be given a chance to enroll in OCS. I'll actually show that off if we just get a decent roll here. Hmm. Okay, good. Go in the military. So you want to go for support. Support will give you access to electronics and mechanic. You want to pump both. Oh, it didn't give us the option. Usually it does. The mechanic and electronics are both uh, vital. You may want to consider dedicating a character to being a gunsmith in order to guarantee success of attaching Starlight scopes. Because that actually is a required skill in order to get those done without breaking them. It's very easy to break those. And it also doesn't matter your combat skills with them because you're not going to be using them in combat. And I suggest trying to take your preferred weapon because you take these weapons away from your non-combat people at the start and dump them in the armory, get extra ammo. Let's take a look at his stuff. Yes. All right, so he's got 7 mechanic and 6 electronics. This is honestly not bad, especially since we weren't dedicating one to one skill or another. You want to try to have at least 10 of both. Mostly because the checks can be very random on whether or not to succeed, even if you have a dedicated mechanic working on it. So it's something to keep in mind. You can get screwed, but there's multiple outcomes to repair a repair task. You either don't repair it, or sorry, let me start over. There are multiple outcomes. One is you repair it, you drive it back. Another is you don't repair it. Another one is you don't repair it, but you damage it further. And the last one is you destroy it. So if you have a crap mechanic on a job, you're going to be in there for a while. If you have a great mechanic, you don't have to worry about it much. So it's something to keep in mind. You want to make sure your mechanic is dedicated and has a lot. And also, final thoughts on party comp. Basically, redundancy. You want to have a lot. You have someone that gets all the languages that you didn't get with your interrogator. You want to have a lot of people dedicated just buying weapons, buying miscellaneous supplies, buying medical stuff. Have a gunsmith, and after you meet after you meet your requirements of your damage dealers, your medic, your interrogator, as well as people with your primary weapon and your people with missiles for cranking up the tow ammo and your miscellaneous supplies, you can just do whatever. Again, redundancy is great because you never know which one you're going to get until you talk to somebody. And if your interrogator speaks the language, then You don't have to send out for them. That's why you want your interrogator in your party, because they're also your language person. So let's get out of here. All right. All right, so I want to talk about ammo. Now, ammo calculation is very interesting, mostly because it goes off your weapon and it changes depending on type. Now, for rifle, I tested did some testing. 249 will give you 570 rounds extra inside your storage, and it counts your personal weapons as well as any extra ones you bought. So the formula is it'll be a personal weapon times 570 times any other identical weapons. So by identical, it means the actual weapon, not anything like say one with a scope or anything. So it just counts the base weapon. So for 10, you'll have 6,720, right? And that is a lot of ammo. Remember that a fully loaded 4-man group with 249s will have 600 per, meaning you are going to be, if you somehow burn up every single ammo bullet you have every fight, which is extremely unlikely unless you have incredibly horrific RNG or you're doing it with very bad skills. You will most likely not be burning through that much per fight, but you do want to have a lot of storage just in case, because mid and late game you are fighting more enemies, and even if with high skills and high initiative, you're still going to be doing a lot. That being said, the calculation for the M60 is 100. It's 400 rounds for an M60, which gives you 7 reloads. This is also true of the Mark 19, which is a heavy weapon grenade launcher. It gives you 350 per Mark 19, and a singular tow missile will have 7 rounds. So heavy weapons, generally speaking, all have 7 rounds. And I tested this with the M2 heavy barrel, and yeah, it's about the same. So it looks like it's pretty uniform across heavy weapons, while pistols have around, I remember seeing a pistol, I think the M9 gave full 20 reloads. So I believe small arms will get 5 clips for free. Then you get the extra reloads inside your storage. So by default, a single small arm, aka pistol or rifle, will have a lot of reloads. Will get you theoretically to a fully loaded reload setup. So when you're building your party and you need to figure out how much ammo you need of a certain type, that is what you need to calculate, because one grenade launcher, specifically the 19, give you 350 rounds per bot one. And by far, you're going to be starved for missiles, because mid and late game, you're going to be seeing multiple ones, and depending on your heavy weapon skill, you may not be able to one-shot kill some of these. But I would suggest actually as you're building your party, save and then deploy, check your ammo storage. Because before you start getting the missions that give you ammunition as a reward, you want to have a good, strong start to work with. I would recommend having at least 100 rounds for missile launchers, and at least 2,000 for the the other heavy weapons. So at least 2,000 for the heavy barrel, which uses 50 caliber BMG. At least 2,000 for the grenade launchers. At least 2,000 for the M60, and have at least 50,000 for your small arm rifle of choice. It is absolutely necessary to have a lot of ammo, because again, you can end up having lots of enemies, missing a lot, not getting kills on your first turn. End up having to reload a lot, because again, as I said before, the 249 you'll carry 600 at a time, but burst mode will have a lot of bullets going out at once. That is something to bear in mind. Okay, so we're not quite ready to go into the gameplay yet, because we have some corrections to do while recording all this. Um, this is be reflected in timestamp. Um, Initiative. First off, I want to correct something I was saying earlier about initiative. If you have high initiative, you can get away with less uh, weapon skill. If you have lower initiative, then you're going to need more weapon skill. It's best to have high initiative and high weapon skill. But if you have, say, initiative 4, but rifle 20 or something, go with that. That's okay. You want to meet the minimum threshold of having 4 or higher initiative. Now, a little bit of formula on that. You again, you want to have higher skills in order to more reliably hit. But if you have high initiative but slightly lower, it's okay. It's about the same as initiative 6 with initiative 12. Well, sorry, with rifle 12. I think is roughly the same as initiative 4, rifle 20. Maybe comparable, may not be, but either way, you're still firing a lot and you're still taking a lot of turns. I believe it does make up the gap. Now, to clarify, I decided to check something because I was wrong. I was a little bit wrong on um, the initiatives before. It's the old fart rule in pen and paper exists. The older and more turns the character has, the more initiative they have. I believe that is reflected here. I've seen majors. Yeah, I've seen a lot of 1 initiative and 2 initiative, and 3 initiative people on lower rank. But when you get captain or major or higher, then you start reliably getting 4 to 5, even 6 in some cases. It should be noted though that according to the manual, which does have some erroneous information in it, does have wrong info, and there is a document file inside installed copies that explains what is and what isn't taken out. Might exist in the manual, like lockpicking and C4 is taken out. But yeah, it does have some bad info. But it does say you cannot get higher than 7, but you can't go lower than 1. So that is the thing about initiative, and I want to correct that. Okay, here's another correction on the weapons. The telescopic rifle scope is what you want, not Starlight. I was under the impression that Starlight did the same thing as the telescope rifle, but it allowed you to see at night. However, Starlight scope does bypass the need for IR goggles. Now, IR goggles will take up a helmet slot, so you have to decide what you want to do if you decide you want to fight at night. I don't recommend fighting at night, period. But if you decide you need to or you want to, that is your option. You can either give up a helmet slot for IR goggles or put Starlight scope on. Otherwise, your standard rifle scope is going to be a telescope because that will give you plus 15 range, and it applies to all rifles. That is something to bear in mind. Again, I'm correcting what I said about that. Okay, so we're going to talk about attributes real quick. This is a correction. I did not talk about them like I should have. So we pulled up the default Paragon squad. Notice, let's look at his strength. He's got 11 rifle and 4 heavy weapons. So strength-wise, this means up to 8 points of rifle are full, and then 3 after are being treated as half a point. So he effectively has, 9.5 points here. Whereas his heavy weapon skill is fully, fully taken into account. I believe this is intended for the pen and paper version, as this game was intended both as a game as well as for usage as a character generator for the pen and paper version at the time. Notice all these skills that never come up, like disguise, small boat, and more. These do not actually have uses in the game, but they do in the pen and paper version. And they were also designed for future proofing in the sense of making a new Twilight 2000 game. That did not happen, unfortunately. But that is what all these skills are designed for. Now, notice he has Rifle 11 and what we just said about attribute. However, it does not seem to be impacted here. So continue, just pump rifle, pump your weapon type, your weapon skill, and you'll see no problem there. So yes, I wanted to correct that. All right, so now we have our party created. We've gone over things like, the way the platoon is supplied. We've covered, our key roles. Well, let's talk about scopes and more. Once you've done your specialization for your medic, your damage dealers, and your interrogator as well as your mechanic, and got your platoon set up to turbocharge your ammo for your preferred weapon, you can finally begin. So at this point, you're going to assemble your squad. Make sure you have everything set up and deploy. So your party leader should be whoever you have the highest damage with, be a damage dealer. Not to mention they should be pretty good, strong in combat. Now we've already gone ahead and set up a save with our, with our stuff on it. So if you're curious about those other saves, there was a point where I was doing a off-screen long play of the game, and I lost the footage. We were about, I think, 40 missions in. It's unfortunate because the footage was on a hard drive that died. It's like it's in its death throw. So this is something I referenced in one of my other videos back in the League Arena, that we had footage of something, but we lost it because, unfortunately, the drive it was on died. So we do have our set up. I want to show the loadout though. This is a loadout you should be using if you. Basically, you're going to have your main weapon in your left hand. You can be in your right hand. It doesn't matter whichever one you prefer. This is just how I've done it ever since I was young. So you should have your weapon. You have your main weapon in one hand. It will be the one you specialize for. You have a tow missile as your secondary. You are only using these against vehicles. This should be your loadout. Each soldier will have, your party will have your preferred weapon as well as your tow. Your medic will have antibiotic and a pretty charged up med kit. You have at least 100 uses on it that will last you a very long time. Same with the antibiotic. You also want to have a 4-man tent, because if you use a tent, when you do healing on your units and sleep, you will have much higher results. You also want to have a radio, because it means you do not have to go back to base to get a recruit for something like a mechanic mission, or to get someone who speaks a language that you don't have in your party. You don't have to worry about these eternal batteries thing. Is something that never comes up. Although in theory it should. Make sure your units your initial party will need snowshoes, because you are doing marching and you cannot use a vehicle yet. Make sure you have flak jackets on everybody, because that will result in better damage absorption. It seems to be kind of random. I've seen enemy soldiers in the past take huge amounts of damage, but have something like 50 damage absorbed by the flak jacket. I do not know how much. I will check the manual real quick. See if it explains how much it absorbs. I think rolled past. Okay, so body. It just says body armor, Kevlar vest. It weighs 4 kilograms, and oddly enough, you cannot buy any. But whereas you can buy the flak jacket, which is heavier but cheaper. So it seems like a weird price typo here, and it doesn't say how much it absorbs here. Why? I don't know, unfortunately. But generally speaking, the flak jacket is better than the Kevlar vest. Should be using the flak jacket over it. Let me see if we can do a quick Google. Okay, so a quick Google says is flak jacket gives armor to their torso. It doesn't translate. See, this talks about the the pen and paper version, but yeah, it's kind of hard to tell what to translate. Basically, it's going to absorb a lot of damage, and we'll see this when we do our missions. When we start for combat. So anyway, storeroom. This is where all your stuff goes, and we saw it during explaining how the platoon supplies worked. Get your ammo. Freezer has your medical supplies, and the rifle rack has your guns. The shelves over here will have your miscellaneous supplies. It says ammo, but yeah, ammo doesn't actually go there. Ammo comes from where you see the Mark 19 and all that. And it doesn't matter what your weapons and armor are that actually here. This is a place. It's a standard static placeholder. We'll always show these icons even if you don't actually have these. Also, we've gone ahead and put telescope rifle sights on our weapons, so get a plus 15 bonus when you use the aim function. It means you take an extra turn to kill somebody, but it also means you're going to hit them. Okay. Also, note this. It will not tell you if it has a scope attached, and I don't think there is an actual way to tell if something has a scope. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, the motor pool. The motor pool, you cannot access it. Okay, so you see this little office here, you cannot access it until you have at least one vehicle. And when you have vehicles, it will show the order of priority. Usually it's going to be whatever you acquired them in. If you have not lost a vehicle, then it will always show the Humvee, M1 Abram, and then the M1A2 Giraffe. That is the priority. It prioritizes the order that you normally receive them in inside a mission. So when you have one of every single unit, vehicle in the game, then you're going to have where it's going to show just that priority, the theoretical order you would have unlocked them in. So anyway, so we took it always starts on January 1st. Now, something you know about missions. Your mission, until you start the next mission, you will not. It's kind of hard to explain. Basically, each mission is randomized on your city. Okay, actually, the very first one is always you go to Skawina in Zator to deliver medicine. That is the only guaranteed hard one, except for the very final battle. Which the final battle will always be in Krakow, but the enemies you have are RNG. That being said, let me there. Let's get out of this so I can talk better. Now, as I was saying, there are only two guaranteed scripted missions. One is your first one is always going to be your delivering medicine from Skawina to Zator. Two is the final battle is always in Krakow, and it will be random on the enemies you have. Now, Missions are RNG in the sense of until you start the mission, it will be RNG. What's going on. The location and all that. So it can take some effort if you're trying to get to a specific city or not, or you just want to generate certain ones. So there is a lot. There is a lot of saving and reloading in the mission. Now that being said, for your very first mission, you can actually start this in the field. This only works on the very first one. Now, something that can happen is because of the way the missions are RNG, you can actually have a combat encounter in Scarwina versus a vehicle. It is very rare, though. Something I meant to do was, if you zoom in to a city as you go to select it, you can scout it out for anything unusual. This is the only time you can see a combat mission in Scarwina this early on. And if you're uncertain of whether or not there's a combat situation, it will tell you if you try to initiate combat. So when you get in, sorry, you little water. I suggest putting the combat speed onto here. You do it here. There's also hotkeys that do it in the field. Set game speed to 1 frame animation. Hide buildings because some entrances are on outside. Rather, they're not on outside facing. So you can end up having a northern one, which is hard to see because the way these things are designed. Notice the dot. So that is in some missions where you gotta retrieve something, like load it into a truck. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. Look. So this is what I'm talking about. Some buildings are designed like this to where the outside is not, the door is not on the western or southern facing ones. So to save yourself a lot of trouble, this is what you do. Hide buildings and you can see exactly where you need to go. So this can happen if you have somebody not strong enough, but you can actually bypass this by going to hit this, and yeah. This is also how you use the ground to transport stuff onto people who cannot carry it normally. Like, let's say you have someone with 1 strength. Well, now you can use the ground to put a heavy barrel on there, something heavy like that. Then you just get in, have someone else who can carry it, put it on him, put it on the ground, and then the other person can pick it up. It is, a funny exploit. Ah, good. So Polish is a very common language for this area for obvious reasons. But as I said before about languages, look at Eastern Europe, as well as NATO. All right. So your very first mission, you will be given a Humvee. Now we go back. So in order to return a vehicle to your motor pool, you need to go to the factory. Driving at night, you get to put on the night vision. Primitive, but it works. So this big area here is the factory. You need to drive your vehicle into it. And now you can actually use the office. And this is information from the manual, but it won't tell you stuff that you should know. Unfortunately, we can't, pull up more information right now. Now, in theory, the Humvee will allow you to use the chain gun on the top, but it's not something that it does. I think enemy Humvees, if you get close enough, which is incredibly rare, they can use it. And since you now have snowshoes, you can just drop these back off because you do not need them after the first mission because you have a vehicle. Vehicles cut down travel time immensely. All right. Now, save before you start a new mission. This is because if you save after the mission starts, it locks it in. Meaning, if you have ambushes in Target City when you normally wouldn't or normally couldn't have one, you are forced to do that. This is also why you save before you accept the mission for the first, the Zator run, because you can end up spawning, hitting the spawn trigger for vehicle inside Skawina. Okay, now we got a hostage crisis. This is a kill mission. Your missions will always start at 8 o'clock in the morning. And here is part of the RNG. But sometimes you can get missions like this, where you have combat. Now this is against a hostile tank. It's almost always going to be a hostile tank. It can, however, be sometimes rarely a 2.5-ton truck or a Humvee. Oh, wow. We have a lot of hostiles here. Oh, first got reload. So reloading a missile launcher will take 2 turns. This is actually a benefit of going heavy weapons over rifle, because you will have much higher success rate. But tow missiles are only for anti-tank duty, so kind of a trade-off. 1 down. And since there's some here, you're going to have to keep doing that because it's going to keep thinking you're not combat. Can't keep breaking combat and move around here. Magazine! Magazine! Also, interesting, tanks will never use their main guns against infantry. They will only use their anti-infantry weapons. So in theory, we should be getting hit by the main gun this far out, but they simply can't hit us. Magazine! Magazine! Okay, one tank left. So it's going to keep doing that because even though it shouldn't, yeah. Alright, so sometimes you can hit a tank and it does not kill it. That just means you need to hit it again.
Magazine! Magazine!
Whoa, it should have done some AoE damage on that one, I think.
Magazine!
There we go. That should be all of them because we only found 3. So unfortunately, when you get caught in a random encounter like that, it's going to change your position most times. It's always worth it to save and then try to travel, because even if you get into a tank, you know, even if you're doing this in a tank, the combat's kind of crap unless, you know, when it's for RNG. Machina, okay. So we're going to be doing some saving. You want to have 2 saves in operation. 1 is your main save, then 2 is your mission save. That way, in case you get screwed by RNG or something, you don't get totally boned. And this will happen. This is like it's similar to Frontier First Encounters, in which if you don't save often for doing something, you are very much likely to get screwed. I can't remember where Bachina was. Gotta look around. That was down to the right, but it's not. Also, the game manual will show you a big map of Poland, and the setting going up to the north to west here is bad. Mostly because that is a heavily radiated area, so if you spend too much time in there, you'll end up racking up your radiation, and if you get too many rats, you will die. You know, your characters will die. Where's Bachin? Oh, right over there. Okay, so you gotta do it this way because you can't. You try to move on to a water square, it won't let you move. Okay, there we go. Now, if you're in here and there are no vehicles, you will not have combat. They will not attack you while you're inside your vehicle if there are no vehicles, even if infantry are spawned that have rockets or missile launchers. Really weird, I know. You can also just save in here and manipulate combat a little bit by popping and then running once you get 1 or 2 down. Ooh! Dude! Oof! Ooh! That might actually be my highest damage total in all. I've been playing this game for like 30 years. I remember playing this game in the late 90s, mid 90s and late 90s. And I've never seen damage that high. Usually it was something like Heavy Barrel with maybe 120 points. But 243? Dude, this is why I stand by the 249, because look at what we just did. We can also take a look and see how much the calculation actually is. So 105 got absorbed, right? So going by the math, black jackets absorb around, let's see, so it absorbs around close to 25% of a hit. That's interesting. Either way, he is gone. So yeah, that's why we do this. And if you use a heavy barrel, you'll see probably 3 times that damage at least, or to resist.
Magazine!
Ow! Oh, whoops. Need to get back in there. Need to get visuals on where are these guys on the map. Ah. Ow! We fired 29 shots. Dude. And this could happen with any weapon, so yeah. Ow! That's just the nature of the RNG. Even with high skill and so on, you can end up having weird situations like that. Now, Enemy 09 looked like he was going to fire, but he didn't. We got to be suspicious. I think he might have a launcher.
Magazine!
He's acting funny, so we need to target Enemy 9. Ow!
Magazine!
Ow!
Magazine!
Ow!
Magazine! Medic!
Ooh! Damn! And when there are absolutely nobody left to kill, yeah, mission ends. Now, you can't actually go over and loot bodies. I suggest doing this, checking it if you find something there. Now, you can look at here and see, what they dropped. And it will drop everything they had equipped in their inventory. All right. Now, we're not bothering picking these up because, nothing notable. Now, we can actually grab these. We already have some on our mechanic, but it's always worth it to pick up extra flak jackets and tractor tools. You'll have to, since we have a very heavy inventory, we have to do it this way. And sometimes it is actually worth it to check the weapons, because for certain missile launchers, you can end up having a one that actually has more rounds than what you can actually equip. So let's say you find a toad launcher in the wild, right? What that means is you can end up having one that has 3 reloads on it instead of 2, which is not normal. So sometimes it's worth it to check it out, especially if you've seen or suspect one that had a launcher. It's primarily happens with the launchers. You can sometimes find a rare weapon that's not viable. Oh, see, I knew it. This is why we were. You can see sometimes you get a feeling that you need to take out somebody first, because the NPCs will use launchers if they can get they can get to you. So yeah, I was suspicious by the way he was acting, and that is paid off. Now let's take a look. This is what I was talking about. Look at that. 4 reloads in it. So usually it's 3, but sometimes you can get one with 4. And this is a reason to check the NPC drops, because again, they can have upgraded versions of your regular weapons. Combat weapon is useful because it can help you prevent them from locking onto your stuff. Basically, what you do is use it with your vehicle. This can be useful if you have a mission where there's a lot of people. There's at least 2 or 3 launchers. So sometimes it is worth it to check if you saw you can remember which enemy was acting strange and not one that advances fire but doesn't. A big hint. Well, first off, let's find the guy here and turn in. All right. By the way, papers are weightless, so you'll be able to just carry them even if you have a heavy load. Now, what was I going to say? Anyway, let's get back. Oh yeah, now I'm sorry. When you get old, it happens. So anyway, the biggest clue that there is a rocket launcher, or rather, there's a missile launcher. Rocket launchers, if I remember correctly, do not need to be aimed first. You just fire them right away. They're usually single use anyway. Missile launchers have to be aimed, and they are reloadable. So the biggest clue that something is going on is if they're advancing and firing, because when you're fighting against infantry in areas like that, they are almost always within small arm range. So if they're advancing and firing and they're not firing, they have a launcher. Be careful. Protect your vehicle, note which enemy number it is, and take them out quick. Alright, so your first mission will give you a Humvee, then the next one will give you a 2.5-ton truck. And then you start getting the tanks. Will be given to you in the order they are listed in the manual. So M1, A1, then A2, then a Bradley, and so on. Make sure to save. Because until you have a tank, you can't effectively fight at range. But usually it's easier just to get out and pop them with a tow missile. Now, since we burned up a lot of tow ammo and some M249 ammo, we're going to need to reload after this. generally speaking, you have a lot of ammo in those 249s, and since you have high rifle skills or whatever your weapon will be, your preferred weapon, you should not need to reload very often. But mid and late game, you're going to be burning through ammo quickly because of the sheer amount of enemies out. So early on, you would not have this problem. Late game, oh, you absolutely will. Now we have an extra 4 rounds, which means, oops. All right. So if we have trouble, with our other weapons, bam, we're going to be killing these tanks no matter what. And the more we have, it actually means the more we can take on per mission. So make sure to save after every mission, like I said. Back on our mission save. Alright, another kill mission. That's a pretty close city. So I forgot to talk about the map. This does show the campaign area. Green cities are allied. Gray squares are neutrals. Reds are under the control of Carney, Baron Carney. Do not go to Lapuzno or Chechny, or you will have an automatic game over. Will automatically be captured and with absolutely no resistance. You cannot even jump out. If you go in there in the vehicle and you don't jump out immediately, you will have insta kill. If you jump out of the vehicle and try to go into combat, insta kill. Will not be allowed any kind of resistance. So don't do that. But on the other hand, if you do, however, do it, you will be given a cutscene that you could not see otherwise of you being executed. Pretty hardcore. All right. So use the Humvee because between two wheeled vehicles, you do not need to use a 2.5 ton truck unless you are doing a supply mission. Now, for most part, you're going to be fighting against other infantry. However, in some mid and late game, generations of it, you may end up having to deal with vehicles. You press the R key in order to find the radar. This works more in tracked vehicles, tanks, because you can actually see the radar. But you can actually do that in order to see if there's a vehicle combat inside a wheeled vehicle. Can't do any combat inside wheeled vehicles, but it's still an interesting interaction. Oh, we forgot to reload this crap.
Magazine!
We're not going to aim right now because we need to drop some of these things quick.
Oh!
Now, remember, telescopic rifle sight will give you plus 15 range when you're aiming. Yeah, only when you're aiming. You have to aim first, then fire. However, in these early ones, you can just do this, just hang out here and fire right away.
Magazine!
And you do want to quickly kill a lot of people early on. The key strategy of combat is to kill quickly.
Magazine!
Which is why you want to use stuff that does a lot of damage and has a lot of ammo.
Magazine! Magazine! Magazine!
Keep saying that even if you actually are in range, it's kind of touchy, I know. It's mostly, it actually goes off direction as well. So there may be some enemies in one direction, but not in another. Yeah, it's weird. You'll see this much more annoyingly with vehicles. Ooh, damn, we turned him to paste. You can see this here. We have to actually move him in this direction in order to get him to do anything.
Magazine!
We're kind of getting low on that one, so we're going to have to put him in, reload when we get back. Got another enemy acting suspicious. See, where is that guy? Oof. We fire back, There's still one around, okay. Yeah, find them on the map. So on the map, dead enemy drops are marked orange. Hostile enemies are marked red. That's only for infantry though. That's the one that was behind there? I think it was. Starlight scup, okay. I'll just grab it. So he's acting suspicious, so he didn't have a launcher. Oh! 249, extra ammo for us. Take a look at the clips. So, small arms usually will have just very low ammo. And it mentions that the different ammo types, but there's no way to have a 200 round one. As far as I know, you may need to modify the game somehow. I don't believe a modding community exists for this. Because honestly, it feels like one of those ones that you would want to have modding for it to fix a lot of bugs. Okay, so sniper and Uzi. There's still one guy out here, but we don't know where he's at, so he's not a threat because he's not firing at us. It tells you, when you're actually in range to hit you, you will, be easily notified, as we saw. M16, okay. So, you'll have a variety of weapons. In theory, because Baron Carney is a renegade Polish military officer, you would be limited to Warsaw Pact weaponry. You can, as you saw in the last mission, we had hijacked, American tanks. So you can end up fighting against NATO equipment or Warsaw Pact equipment. Anything happens here. Oh, this guy had a grenade launcher, so it's a good thing we took him out quick. Those grenade launchers can be insta-kill. If a grenade launcher is fired and the A grenade lands within 1 or 2 meters of target. That is an insta-kill. Anything further has you roll for how much damage you take. You can still actually die from the mist explosion. Oh, there he is. Mist explosion. So if you go grenade launcher, Happy, keep that in mind.
Magazine!
Oh, there's still another one. Pretty sad, though. Sometimes it can be hard to see where it is. Where is that? You just seen it, right? Oh, look at that! Look at that! I called it, didn't I? One was acting suspicious. There it is, a rocket launcher. And telescopic sights. Nice. Free stuff. I knew it. I knew that guy was acting suspicious. Go and just bring this back. Again, the rocket launchers are disposable. Missile launchers have reloadable. So 15 rounds and then 4 extra reloads. Where's that last guy though? Okay, we can try it this way. Yeah, and this will tell you if there's enemies within threat range. Use this to see where the enemies. Oh, he's up north. All right, now we know.
Magazine!
There we go. All right, now we're going to check out this last guy. Nothing worth, that's a sniper rifle, Dragunov, and a British assault rifle. So not worth taking. Alright, let's go report. Also note, if you don't collect gear, enemy drops after a mission, it remains there until you do. Is honestly a strange thing. You think, the civilians or something would cleaned up, but it is what it is. So you end up having multiple missions within a city. You can end up having just a massive amount of drops. Also, if you talk to your XO. Now, in theory, I imagine, you could do either one. You have to go back and, cash, in the mission by, selecting the radio, but I don't think it's possible to find hidden supplies. I can be wrong, and if I am, I'll make a correction in the description. But as far as I know, there are no hidden supply dumps or anything. We're just gonna reload because I don't feel like doing this. And this is something you should consider. Just reload if you keep getting the RNG encounter. Be very touchy. Like, geez. Also, if I remember correctly, tracked vehicles will have shorter travel time. Since with the wheeled vehicles, you're running on roads. There we go. Make sure it's safe. And we also need to reload. So, got to do that. Reload, then go and save. Burned to a hell of a lot of ammo on that one. So we have 100 uses on our kit here. We should not need more than 100. You shouldn't need more than 100 uses of biotic in a full campaign, unless you're constantly getting cure missions. Medical kit, however, you will be burning through those pretty fast, especially if you save and reload for more healing missions. Alright, so we have a healing mission. Now, sometimes, like the Scalwina starting mission, you can end up having an ambush there. It is rare, though. Has a pretty close. There it is. Notice how many around here. Now, these are not necessarily indications of hostile units. It just means where all the NPCs are from the start. Yeah, and we got combat. So when you get to an area check, oh, we got 4 hostiles here. Ooh.
Magazine! Magazine! Medic!
Enemy 20 is acting suspicious.
Magazine!
We need to figure out what's going on. Might be a launcher.
Oh!
Oh, nope, he's a pistol user. Okay.
Magazine! Magazine! Magazine!
All hostiles down. Oh, yeah, we can't heal a missile. We are not Renata Glask. And once an NPC is no longer part of the mission, they will automatically turn purple and indicate they are a resolved mission. So this is what I was talking about with languages. These are the only times you'll ever see Armenian being a valid language. The NPC will have nothing to say. See, he was acting suspicious. Tank Breaker is a missile launcher. Look at that. Interestingly enough, the way it described here, it works like a javelin, which would have been a actual weapon at the time, but it was not included in the manual. And it has 4 clips. Well, okay, this is a rare upgrade version. Dragon, product improved. Missile launcher. I think it actually has more rounds in it than normally would. So another rare one. Absolutely worth coming over here and doing it. So yeah, already we are seeing people spawning with launcher. Means you gotta take them out quick. Oh, look at that! Another one with launchers. Again, we are very lucky we took these guys out quickly. Now, this is actually one that is technically removed. It is something that's you can tell by the name. It's a NATO reporting name and not an actual one. It's part of the Russian BMP. You look at the description; it is glitched. This is an item that was listed in the manual, but it was actually dummied out. You can't buy it normally. Another formatter. Wow, we getting some free ammo here, huh? Or stuff to turn in. So it's always worth to at least check, even if you don't actually take it, because as we saw with that previous mission, you got an upgraded tow. Nothing work. I wouldn't bother with the tent. We already have one. And if for some reason or another you forgot to get flak jackets, checking enemy drops is a good way to get what you missed. So let's finish shooting these guys up and check that last drop. Wow. I'll just drop that off. So yeah, wheeled vehicle tools. Interesting. Okay, looks like nobody's left for healing. Notice the NPCs will be speaking Armenian, but this is also something very interesting. All of our party speaks English, but we're translating English. Like this is just so weird, you know. All right, so A2 has been transported. And we've gotten all the launchers and such, so let's head back. Make sure to save. Just reload. Also, as a fun note, you can destroy all the buildings here, and when you come back out, they've been rebuilt instantly. You can destroy the factory here, and it'll still be there. Doesn't hinder the game at all, oddly enough. And drop off gear. We don't really need to reload and burn up much ammo. Notice the ammo for the spandrel is kind of messed up, right? Yeah, it's just spandrel ammo. It doesn't have a millimeter diameter or anything. So yeah, it's all right. Next mission. Once you've received a T90, then you start going on to the I think one of the last unique story missions. Then you start getting just mostly reprises of the previous ones with some random story-based ones later. Yeah, down vehicle. So this is one you want to get replace your medic with your mechanic. We are going to do right now. Your save. Ideally, save outside. That's rather than inside the base when you go for a mission save. Notice the radar pulled up. Despite a vehicle under, it means we have no other hostiles around. It is possible, although rare, to have infantry out here as well. So the Bradley will always come from this mission, unless for some reason or another you destroyed, a previous thing. Make sure to save. Make sure to save before doing this in case you're there. Wrong dim buttons here apparently. Yes. Oh, thought I gave him the tools before. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, we didn't actually equip them yet. So in case your skills are not high enough, yeah. There we go. Minutes to fix the Bradley, and we're back. All right. Time to head back. Now, the tracked vehicle is easier to maneuver in because you can just turn rather than have to go into motion, then turn. Accelerates slower, though. I am not 100% sure if wheeled vehicle and tracked vehicle skills actually factor into this. I have never really noticed a difference. I think it's actually based on how much your CPU is cycling, how powerful your CPU is. Now, once you have a vehicle, you can press the arrow keys. Get stuff like a fuel cap and more. Due to the way it displays, yeah, it's kind of hard to read it. Yeah, the way it displays again. This is something I wish there was a modding community because they could probably fix this display glitching. Make sure to reform your party. And save. And the cure mission. So this is Pradla. Interesting how you only need antibiotics, even for stuff that was probably not be curable by it. So just like the healing mission, just go and cure. Equip antibiotics instead of the heal kit. I prefer the Bradley for combat, except for very tough missions mid and late game where you want to be able to drop them quickly because the 25mm cannon is kind of crap, but the tow missile is why I take it. Tow missile is a one-shot kill. Kidding me? We found combat inside. Wow, we're actually inside the city. Got combat here. Got some. Oh, it looks like there's two of them. Ooh, we missed it. Better. Oh, okay. So our angle is bad. Okay, see the black smoke, that means we actually did hit it. Black smoke indicates a dead tank. Oh! And we got killed. Yeah. That's their normal game over. So tank, vehicle combat can be very, spooky and quick. Honestly, kind of part of the appeal. Realistic, you get hit like that, you die. Alright, no enemies, good. And a cure mission is much quicker than a heal mission in terms of time on the in-game clock. Takes 1 minute to cure. Also, kind of interesting that they have a hospital right here, but they still have it doesn't make any sense. Looks like we got a bunch clustered up here. Alright, that should be all of them. T-72, cool. So T-72s are pretty reliable tanks. This setting. All right. What child one? Okay. This is where your interrogator will start really shining. Now this could be a quick mission or a long one. It all depends on how fast you identify the right one. And once an NPC has been identified as not the spy, they get marked as purple. Help you narrow down where that spy is. It is entirely possible to get the spy right away and then instant kill him by just blasting him. So the higher your interrogation going into it, the better. Bingo! See, there he is.
Magazine!
If you have melee, if you're this close, you can actually melee. I believe you need to have unarmed melee or armed melee skills to actually have any kind of impact. It's easier just to pop. Oh! Ooh, the head. Brained him. Double HP 35 and spy papers. I've been trying some John Wick stuff. Alright, T-80 transported. It's interesting that the game talks, the manual refers to Soviet BMPs, which are the equivalent of the Bradley carriers, but we believe they're the equivalent of the carriers, infantry carriers, as well as secondary scout vehicles and tanks. And it mentions that, but we never see any other Soviet tanks other than T-72, T-80, and T-90. Kind of curious, isn't it? They never included other vehicles. For Americans, it's NATO, A1, A2, and the Bradley. So 6 tanks, but in 3 from each side. Now we're getting close to the end of the scripted guaranteed. Now you get it's a kill mission against a tank. It's usually 1, but sometimes it can be 2, maybe even 3. Generally speaking, you want to pick your heaviest tank available. Or if you're good at landing the tow missile, pick the Bradley, because it will be 1 shot. Use a scout. Looks like there's only 1. Got them dead in the tracks. And usually the tow is a 1-shot kill. Or it has situations like that. Now, unlike other missions, when you destroy a vehicle and come back to the area after the mission's turned in and a new one started, it's gone. But it doesn't do that with enemy weapon drops and all that. All right. I don't actually know what happens if you have a vehicle run out of fuel. I can't remember if you have to abandon the vehicle or not. Hey, too much leak. Keep wanting to hit the Y button. There, the camera. All right, now we're finally back. Now, for the most part, those are the unique scripted missions. You always get 1 vehicle you do not have from the first set. Now, the next one should be the 2.5-ton truck mission. Now, there is a scripted mission. Well, not scripted, but a potential random one where you had to transport supplies through a 2.5-ton truck. It can be incredibly annoying because you have a lot of saving and reloading. So, there. To avoid random encounters. Oh, nope. It's a different one, actually. Okay, so we just actually the point where we can start getting different mission pools. We're gonna reload. So it should actually be a different mission now. Nope. Interesting. Same Coast City. So we're gonna save. Reload again. I'm kind of curious. It changed it. I don't remember it being scripted for Pilica. Yeah, see, it changes. Oh, this is actually a closer one, so we'll take this one instead. Salwina for the leaders, and then Oculus. Oh yeah, we'll definitely take that. So we'll do this, and we'll show what the mission reward is. And it says talk to the leaders, but there's only one leader. Okay, we got a lot of infantry. Yep. Don't see any vehicles. None on radar. Good. Ooh. Oh!
Magazine!
Damn! Oh! Oh! He shot that many bullets, but only one hit. We got stormtroopers here, apparently. Oh!
Magazine!
Some of these guys are acting funny. I smell launcher.
Magazine!
Ooh, brained it hard.
Magazine!
Damn, what's with all these headshots? So it's kind of RNG what body part gets hit. If you do like 30 damage to the head, it's insta kill. Minimum. Minimum 30.
Magazine!
Yeah, see? Jesus, there's still so many left.
Magazine! Magazine!
MG3, okay, that's a machine gun. Bombus, oh wow. Gun solid snake. Damn, took his leg off.
Magazine!
Goggles. I don't know. I feel like one of these guys had a launcher the way they were acting.
Magazine! Magazine!
M9, okay. Had to guess where that was at. HP 35. There's that last little stinker. Apparently he's not in range. That one from earlier, okay.
Magazine!
Damn, how many are left? Sheesh. Got them all by now. That's what I was talking about, why you need your damage units need to have a lot of initiative. You're going to be reloading it constantly. You want to have something that's got a large ammo pool. Oh, yeah, 249. You taking that? Extra ammo. Oh, we do need to heal at some point, don't we? If you don't heal after a certain time, it becomes a lingering injury and it reduces initiative more. Yeah, you can see we've lost initiatives on some of these guys. So be careful. Make sure your people are healed up quickly. Otherwise, you permanently lose it. You can have -1, and the manual says you can't go lower than 1, but you can get negative very easily. Oh, he's all the way over here. There's no auto cure after mission. You have to do that stuff normally. Ah, look at that tank breaker! I knew one of them was acting funny.
Magazine!
Dude, how many are still left? No way. I can't believe there's still some left. Okay, Magnum. Alright, let's look at the map, see if we can... Oh, he's all the way over there. Okay.
Magazine!
Not close enough, my ass. Sometimes it can be goofy like this. There we go. Heal. I didn't mean to. Yep, and there we go. Back to normal. So you lose initiative, untreated wounds. Make sure to heal after combat missions. Oh, I think that's that one from earlier. See, it's kind of hard sometimes because if you don't go and clean up units, you'll clean up maps on your own. Yeah, you're gonna end up in this kind of situation as I was alluding to earlier. Go report to the leader. Oh, that's right. We gotta go back now to Boina. Sorry, it's been a while since I did this one. Once you clear out the political, puppets and all that, There we go. Alright, so after you get your vehicles, the next set is going to be giving you supplies. And you'll see your supply go up inside the computer store, information. Alright, so let's return. Drop off anything else. We also need to reload hard. Alright, save. And you get story update. And this is the 2.5 ton truck mission. So for the most part, you're going to be once you've done the 2.5 ton truck missions, you're going to start getting reprises of the ones we've done up to this point. So you might get a healing mission, you might get a curing mission, a spiring mission, and so on. So the gameplay loop is basically you keep doing that until you hit a milestone. I don't know 100% what it is. I think it's every 15 to 20 missions. Get a story update, story mission update, and then you get potential story mission. Along the way, you're going to get stuff like ammunition. You'll get stuff sent to Krakow, food, mission, fuel, more. Eventually, you'll start getting missions about where you can acquire allegiances of cities. Sometimes, even if you get these, you are going to fail these missions in the sense of you'll kill every enemy, and then you get told somebody else screwed up, so they had to swear allegiance. You also get liberation missions of cities that capitulated to Baron Carney. And eventually, you're going to get story updates like the Leposno children were murdered, and how a squad gets captured, and he engages in some extreme mutilation and basically war crimes. But in the long run, well, not the long run, but eventually you're going to get to the point where there's no cities left under his control, so he ends up mounting a last ditch assault. which is where when you win, you finally complete the game. Is I don't. It seems like there's different numbers that decide when you hit that threshold. I've seen some runs go to 64. I've seen some people say, 80 missions before, the final battle starts. So it's kind of random. It can take a while to unfold. Expect it to take quite a few hours, especially given how much time you have to do saving and reloading because RNG can be really stupid. So yeah, that is the gameplay loop, and honestly, it's a fun game, but you will have to take a long time for it to play out. It's difficult to speed run it, and it does get significantly easier if you know, invest hard in your intended weapon type. So yeah, I hope this guide's been useful. And again, this is a different one than usual because the gameplay loop at this point becomes random missions, random cities, random amounts of enemies if in a combat mission and more. So anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.